You're listening to the Custom Built Podcast. In today's episode, we are on part 2 with Rachel Squire with Interconnections Healing and her journey and her beautiful advice that she has for anybody that is considering starting their own business and taking a chance on themselves. So stay tuned. What about you had, but people that were close to you, were they supportive for you when you decided to do this, or were you getting a mixed bag there as well?
I feel like most of my friends were really supportive. I feel like there's this like interesting thing in the business world that people talk about of like a lot of your support weirdly does come from strangers. Mm-hmm. I think I got a ton of like moral and emotional support from my friends. A lot of my closest friends though like don't live here. Mm-hmm. And so like building the business and stuff like that, I had to meet a lot of people along the way. Mm-hmm. I did have one friend that lived here at the time that I was super close with, and she like helped me with everything. Like she cleaned Wild Alabaster every time I had people there. She would do, her name's Megan, and she would do so much stuff. And then she ended up moving, so I was like, oh no. But like every like little group that I had or different things, I would meet someone, and they were like my new little helper along the journey. Mm. And I think like the business community, while I think if you are a new business owner or haven't been one yet, like it does feel intimidating, but they are the most helpful people in the world, because like every person that you're meeting along this journey that is a business owner knows exactly where you're at, mm-hmm. no matter what the industry is. Like I joined BNI, which is Business Networking International, and it was definitely interesting being in a room as like a Reiki business, a spiritual wellness business, and like being in a room with like a lawyer and a bank person and like marketing and stuff like that. But those people were just like, they wanted to help. So they were like, tell us like what we can do to help you grow your business and feel supported. And each week in BNI, you have to give like a 60-minute or 60-second presentation on like what you're offering, and it helps you develop those skills, because it's like, all right, how am I going to explain to this room of like 27 people what I'm doing and how it's making an impact, and would get them to want to try it, because most of these people, this was not in their spectrum of like something that they would consider. Right. Like, they're like, what is a chakra? what is any of these things that you're talking about? But they were still there for me to be like, do you need contracts, and do you need like all these different things? So.
Yeah. That's amazing. And then finding a support is just, so whether if it's not your own, it's like, I find it can be really lonely in some ways. Like people just like, if you, in your own community, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, mm-hmm. but your support system might not, it can be really lonely, because they're like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, and then their fears kind of come out, and, they might voice it in ways like, this might not be your
I definitely have experience with that.
But like I know for like me, they're like, oh, you're just gonna like go for it, like you don't have anything set up, and I'm like, nah, this is just it. It's gonna go, and we're gonna see how it goes. And I think that scared a lot of people that weren't in that mindset. And so like when other people's fears come in, it can be just really lonely in not having that support. So like finding it, whether it's with your family and your support, your friends, or through another group. Yeah. It's a game changer, and support is so important. I think we all forget that too. Like, I think we think we're supposed to be, actually we were talking about this, so you do like women's circles. I'm kind of switching gears on you. Okay. But I feel like that was like a big thing that came up, but it was like, we feel like we need to like do this alone, mm-hmm. life alone. And it's not like we're not supposed to do it alone. Yeah. And you don't need to be lonely. Yeah. And they're just, you can find these people, and I find in my experience, like the more I learn about myself and like open up, I'm attracting more people who are in like the same space as me and also want to connect deeply and support. Yeah. And it's incredible. Yeah. It's such a big, my life's changed in just like such a short time, and a lot of it has come down to like my own growth and being open to people and just meeting new people. So it's just, I don't know another word to say other than incredible game changer.
I think to add to that, like asking for help. Yeah. Not being afraid or stubborn enough to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And like I've had so many of those moments. Like I I'm the sole owner of my business. I now have an assistant that works with me, but like for the first year it was just me. And so like you get this like stubborn in your head thing of like, I'm on my own, blah, blah, blah. And then I remember back in June, I was like looking at my numbers. I wasn't really growing. And I was just like, if I have another month that is at the sales that I'm at right now, I will not make it. And so every person that I knew that had a successful business, I was like, hey, will you sit down with me and have a meeting and like just listen to me talk out some changes I want to make and give me advice on what you think I should do. And I went from a $4,000 a month to a $7,000 a month in that 30 days.
Yeah.
And it was just like admitting like, hey, I need help right now, and people meeting with me, and like a lot of them, they gave me a little bit of advice, but it was more of like, these are some ideas I have, and I'm just validating of like, do that, don't do that. And then, you know, another time just talking to someone who had a successful business, and they're like, well, why don't I put you in my newsletter? It's such a simple like thing. I got like 5 clients from that, and like long-term clients. And so it's like just taking that step of like, I really need help right now. I'm stuck in like a growth or like a plateau. And reaching out, and like someone always is going to offer something.
And I think one of the main things that you just said, like I think is really important to point out, was that you go to people who are successful, or like you, where maybe you want to see your business growth be, whether even if they're doing different things, like their growth of where they are and where you are now. Like I think people go to other people a lot of times that aren't even in the same headspace, or they don't have businesses, or and they're asking advices to the wrong people. They're asking advice to the wrong people. And I think that was just one of those main things that like is really important to point out, was just that you're going to people who are where you want to be and who you look up to and who you find are successful.
And I think that's like another huge advice too. And like there's like a quote around this of like, what if you put yourself in a room with like very successful people, like it's likely that your success will be more. But to me, like the thought process that I had with starting my business was any person that I saw as influential, and I'm not talking about like social media influential, I'm talking about just like energy, like successful, or like, not to go on too much of a tangent, but like my therapist and I talk about, when we use the word success, it's not always about money or what they have as a business. It's how do you feel? And so like you can be the business owner that has like 10 restaurants and all these things, but you're stressed out and your kids don't see you and your parents don't see you and your partner doesn't see you. Or you can own 5 stores, work 30 hours a week, and like chill the rest of the time. And like, how do you define success? And so like, to me, my biggest thing was like any person where I could look at their life and say like, oh, I want that, I would immediately be like, how can I put myself close to this person? And so like I would offer those people like free services. I made like a deal with my yoga studio where I'm there every Tuesday, and the owner of that studio is just someone that I really look up to. And so I was like, how can I put myself as close to this person as possible? And I think that's something that like doesn't cost money all the time. Like I think a lot of people pay a lot of money for like business coaches and things like that, which can be really great, but it's also just sometimes as easy as being like, I look up to this person, how can I build a relationship with them?
I know for me that's like a really hard thing for me to do, and it feels intimidating sometimes. And so I'm getting better at that. But I think that could be something that can hold people back, though, is just that intimidation, which it's not helpful. So
where do you think that feeling comes from?
Oh, just, am I good enough? It's like that whole, like, am I good enough to even like talk to these people? You know, whole deep down thing that I have to remind myself and just like remember, like, that yes, I am good enough. Of course I am. We all are, like, and I don't need to prove myself to anybody. And it's gotten a lot easier once, you know, doing the hard work of like deep diving and understanding, you know, just me in general, and reclaiming myself. So like, part of my journey was just like hitting my like anger, like rock bottom of like, what am I doing with my life? Like I hit that space and I was just like, all right, I see it now. Like I've literally just been like this passive passenger my whole life and like doing all these things that I should or shouldn't do and like letting other people define me and put me in a box. And I'm not necessarily this person and I am weird and I do like to do these things or whatever it is. And like, and just being like, all right, no more. And as I keep on doing my, you know, my work and growing, like I discover more about myself, but it comes down to, am I good enough? And that is probably the root of most of everything, you know, of my life. And it's like, and it's like, I mean, I'm sure people can resonate with that, right? Like they can relate and maybe not exactly in those terms, but like it comes to that, like, these people are so intimidating. And I went to this big business conference and these are people that are like uber wealthy. Like they have figured out the online world and like have skyrocketed their business. And typically, like I've done like multi-level marketing in the past, and I was scared. Like every time I'd like talk to somebody that was like way like up there, I was so intimidated. I'm like, they make so much money, they're so much better than me. Like I'm just like this like pipsqueak of a kid, like don't know what I'm doing. And so I went into this conference like I'm going to be open, and I'm just going to be here to like be a support for who needs to be a support, but I'm going to be open for people who like want to connect. And like I made some really great connections there. And instead of being intimidated by these people that are really financially successful in their businesses, what I saw were people like we were all the same. We were all one person, not like literally one person, but like we are all one. And no one is one better or less than anybody else. And they run into the same things that I run into. Like we all have our shit, and we're all falling into like this, like, oh, they're better than me because they make more money than me, or they're higher up in like their business or whatever. And it's not like they still had to trip and fall to get there. You know, and our journeys are all different, but we all fall into the same type of challenges, and they might look different, but they are challenges, and we all have to go over them or not. And that's the success or not, right? Like I'm successful because I went for it and I kept going because I knew this is what I needed to do, and I listened. But I failed because I just didn't try. Like to me, that's failure. Like to me, like I'm not going to fail because I'm going to keep trying.
And I think there's different paths for every person that wants to be an entrepreneur. There is the like, fuck it, quit your job, start person. And then there's also like, you know, do both at the same time, like try to keep the stability and build small things. But I think, you know, you create your own path, you create your own journey. And so it's like, what's going to feel best for you? Like my thing that I thought about was like, I was working 50 hours a week at Starbucks for all these people and a salary and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, can you imagine how much I would get done if I worked 50 hours a week for myself? Like, that's so much time. And so for me, doing both was not an option. Like, but for some people, you know, you have a remote job or you just feel like your job's something that's really easy. You can build something on the side and like build that stability and balance for yourself. I took out loans and credit cards, and that was something I had a lot of shame about for a long time because I was just like, oh my God, I have debt. And it, you know, then talking to other people, they're like, that's fine. You're fine. Like this is, you know, this is a normal thing to have as a business owner, and it's one path to choose. And I think to myself all the time, some people have hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. And I don't have that much debt, and I did not go to school, but I'm doing my dream thing. And so I think there's always going to be these little sacrifices along the way, but everyone kind of finds their path and what works for them when they decide that they're going to try.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, not everybody is going to be like, quit your job and go for it, right? Like, you can't always do that, and that's okay. So whatever the journey is, it's cool. Like, your journey is your journey. So what would you, like, if somebody is on the fence about, or they're getting, like, the nudges, right? And they're thinking about starting something, like, what's your advice for somebody if they're, like, on the fence, right? Or, like, they're like, I think this is what I want to do, but I'm afraid, or how can they really be true and honor what?
That's a good question. I think the first thing that comes to me is, like, find a business owner and talk to them about it. And I think really focusing on that, like, I am good enough. Like, I feel like that internal work is so important, because one of my favorite things that I tell a lot of people is, like, there are no limits in life. There are only levels. You can do anything you want. It's just that it is a level by level process of how you get to that thing.
Yeah.
And so I think the internal work of, do I really want this? And if I do, then yes, I deserve it. And yes, it's accomplishable. And then just finding open-minded people to share your ideas with. Because I feel like once you click into that kind of community, it feels so supportive immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. And then what about, so I'm going to run a scenario. Okay. What if someone's like, I have this idea and I think it'd be cool. So the first thing would be to find a business owner that they are inspired by. Right? Somebody that they can talk to someone that's open-minded, you said, right? Because that's going to be a big difference between somebody that just, like, owns a business and
some people don't want to talk to you.
Or, like, they're really jaded, right?
Yeah.
Like,
some people don't want to talk to you, and some people you don't want to talk to, but,
So find somebody that you feel, like, really close with. Or, like, not necessarily you don't need to feel close to, but, like, did you know Rachel James before you... So you were just like...
I one time bought a crystal, and then I messaged her on Instagram, and I was like, hey, I have to get an LLC, and I don't even know what that means. Do you want to help me?
So that was it.
And she was just like, here's the key, here's everything, like, you could ever want. And she was just, like, someone I felt safe with, and I was just like, okay, you were cool, you had a cool vibe when I met you. And so just kind of, reaching out to someone that I thought was cool.
Yeah, so that's the key. Like, find somebody you didn't know her, but you felt comfortable and safe to reach out. And so find somebody like that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I got ignored by many people, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
And, like, I think, reaching out to somebody or finding someone to, because if you share your ideas with just, like, your family or friends, you might not always get that same level of support. But when you share your ideas with someone who's done something similar, they're going to give you all the belief in the world, because they know that it's possible.
Yeah.
No matter what, even if you're like, I want to sell toothpicks for a living, someone that is a business owner is going to be like, how can I help you do this?
Let's do this. Let's get you to the toothpicks, right? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. They're like, it doesn't even matter what you're doing. They're just like, how can I support you in this? And that's going to be the difference between, like, really going after it and letting other people tell you what you can or can't do. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So that's good, because it's contagious. It's contagious to have that, like, excitement. Like, let's do this, and just having even a stranger believe in you.
Yeah, and, like, there's a lot of free resources. There's a lot of free networking events. There's, like, even, I'm sure, just YouTube video. Like, I remember looking up on YouTube how to start a business.
Yeah.
And I think another big advice is, like, try to find someone who is doing what you want to do. And even if they're, like, across the country, just, like, don't copy them, obviously, but like, be like, oh, well, how did this person do this? What are they representing themselves as? Because I always say to my friends who are like, what happens if there's a recession, or what happens if this? I'm like, someone became a billionaire off of popcorn. Off of making a good brand of popcorn.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, whatever it is, you could figure it out. You can figure out how to make money with it. And I think take money out of the equation, even though that feels super impossible, because that's what our world runs around. Right. But, like, someone got super famous off pillow pets and made a ton of money. Like, there's so many. If you have an idea and you can find ways to workshop it, like, you can get the money from almost anything. Yeah,
you're right. Especially when you believe in it. Like, when you just, like, I think that's the difference. Like, you need to be, like, wholeheartedly committed to it, and not, like, committed, like, I made a choice and I'm going to do it and I'm going to stay with it. Like, don't force it. It needs to feel really good.
Well,
right?
And I think that's that big picture. Like, find what's your mission, and, like, find your why. Like, if you listen to a lot of those, like, TED Talks and stuff about your why, it's, you could sell any product, you could sell anything, but you're always going to come back for, what am I doing for people with this? Because that's what society runs off of. So it's like, for me, the biggest thing that I do for people is hold space and allow them to show up with whatever trauma they have, whatever thing they're going through, whatever, their experiences, and I just allow them to completely be that for me and tell me about it, or whatever they need to do, and I hold space for that. And of course I do my work too, but my mission in all of that is, I'm accepting people for where they are and I'm helping them grow.
Yeah.
So I could sell anything and keep that mission, and that's still my goal. And so keeping that why makes it so I always have that knowing of like, I could sell the coolest next hair product, but my thing is like for people to feel good about themselves and be able to accept themselves. And I'm still in that same mission, and I still have that same confidence and belief.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Like, that is a brilliant way to explain it. I love that. So do you want to tell us a little bit more than, if you want to share, like what it is that your like day-to-day looks like, and then where do you see interconnection healing going next? Because I'm excited to hear your growth and like watch your...
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know about Reiki, the way I like to describe it is like energy balancing. And so there are definitely people out there that are like, this is woo-woo, and I don't think any of it's real, and that is okay. That's all right if that's you. But I really like to focus on the chakras and balancing out the chakras, and a lot of that has to do with like visualization and feeling and intuition. And so a lot of my work is not tangible. But in my sessions, a person would come in, we would talk about any things, emotions, events, energies that you want to let go of, and then we talk about any positive things that you want to call in. And I always tell people, or I ask people, how do you want to feel? So we have our goal, and then we do little energy card readings. They're like affirmation cards, and they all say great things, and that kind of adds an extra layer. And then they'll get on the table, and I'm working on balancing out their chakras using Reiki. And so this is pulling out any like stagnant energies out of the body using sound healing, using crystals, using smoke and different healing tools, and then also using my hands, and then adding this positive energy to them. And it's so hard to explain if you haven't tried it. It is a very like, you have to try it to feel it. But it changed my life. The first person who ever told me about it was like this big army guy that I was friends with, and he was very straight-laced, and he was like, he had served in the military, and he had a lot of PTSD and a lot of physical pain, and he was like, nothing helped me as much as Reiki did. And I was like, isn't that like spiritual woo-woo stuff? And he was like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it, and I didn't even believe in it, but he's like, but nothing has helped me. And so I tried it for myself, and it felt like 10 years of therapy in 1 hour. And I like cried, and I just felt so much peace. And so I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to learn all about it. So after people kind of get out of the table in this experience, we just kind of talk about what they felt, and I talk about anything that I noticed, visualization, auditory, anything like that. And we kind of start this healing journey together. And I think the only way that my work is tangible is the results that I get to see. And that is like my favorite part. That's what keeps me doing it and makes me completely dedicated to this business, is because like seeing people the time after that, like their skin looks brighter, they feel so much lighter, they feel so much happier, like all of the things that they were feeling so upset about or heavy with like seem so much lighter. And being able to facilitate that is like the most rewarding thing in the world. My ultimate kind of goal with the business is to have just this big space with all of the different healing modalities, all of the different healers or practitioners that I get to handpick and build relationships with. And I do have one assistant now. Her name is Jenna Fior, and she is so amazing, and she's my first employee, and it's so cool to be able to like pass stuff down and like build that with someone else. And so like even having that now within like the first year of my business was such a huge deal, because my biggest goal has always been having this like big healing collective with all different practitioners, all different practices, and continuing that big mission of, can we hold space for people, accept them from where they're coming from, and help people grow?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love what you do. It's helped me tremendously, and just in the community too, of where I very much isolated myself, I feel like, for my own protection. Like, no one told me to do it. I just like did it, and I'm starting to break out of the boxes, and just, so what you do here, I think, is just so important and so incredible, and I'm thankful for what you've already created here.
Thank you.
I think I'm excited to see what's next for you.
Yeah.
And I love Jennifer. She is the sweetest. Yeah.
She's very different than I am, which I love. Like, I feel like I'm very grounded, and I'm very like calm, and she is very excited and like airy and fairy-like, and like, I've always said in business, it's great when you have different energies, because like, I'm going to always attract the people that I attract, and she will attract the people that match her energy, and like, it's like a cheat code. Like, I'm like attracting more just because I have different energies. Like, people love her, and they love her for exactly who she is, and they love me for who I am, and I love that.
Yeah. And you guys are building, like, that is what you're building.
Yeah.
So that's just, a cheat code of your own. Like, it's so special. That's so amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share or think that would be really helpful for people who are, the Custom Built podcast is like custom building your homes, but also your life. Yeah. So if you had any advice for like really, like, what is your advice for custom building your life? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Am I speaking in circles?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you're great. I think it's funny because you say this and I like look around at my apartment that's very custom built to me. I think that it's really important to find ways where you can put yourself first. And it's not selfish to do that. Even if you have kids, even if you have a family, even if you have parents you're taking care of, you have to find these ways to prioritize yourself, because we only get one life. Maybe. We only get one life as this person.
Right.
But, don't waste it thinking that you have all these responsibilities that you might not be that obligated to. And so finding that way to put yourself first, build an environment that feels like, even if it's just a room, in one room in your house, or, 20 minutes a day to just be you and put yourself first. I think no matter what you're doing in life, that's a priority.
Yeah, that's perfect. It is. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey and what you're doing here in Charleston.
Thank you.
So good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for hanging out today. If you liked what you heard, please make sure you hit subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.